Hey there riders, Moto Journo Kris here today. I'm here with my Smart Pill and 401 and I wanted to talk choosing your first motorcycle and specifically naked bikes. Now, this bike does kind of more fall into the scrambler category, but because it's what I've got, I'm going to talk about it as a naked and the advantages and disadvantages of a naked bike in general. This is the most generic style of motorcycle. Essentially, a naked bike is a bike without any fairings. Very occasionally you might see like a bikini fairing on a headlight or something like that, but a naked bike is, as you can see here, bike with no fairings, and they are sometimes called a roadster. Generally speaking, because there are lots of categories of bikes without any fairings on them, including cruisers, including scramblers, including some of the touring bikes. When we talk naked bikes, we are generally speaking about a bike which doesn't fit into any of those other categories. With a scrambler, generally speaking, these just have a dual sport set of tires on them or a dual purpose set of tires on them. So essentially very, very similar to a naked bike. So if you are thinking about the comparison points, this does, I would say, still fall generally into that category, unlike bikes like a cruiser or a tour or anything like that. As far as the advantages of a naked bike, we're getting generally a low seat height. You're getting a nice tall set of handlebars. They're normally a bit flatter. They're not as aggressive as on a sports bike. Apart from that, the lack of fairings does cut down on your wind protection. So that is actually a disadvantage. The flip side to that is it's much easier to service and do work on a bike like this. You don't have to take the fairings off to get access to the engines or do an oil change or anything like that. So, there's advantages and disadvantages. On top of that, you're also obviously getting a bike which is a little bit harder to keep clean. This is a very bitsy bike, even in the naked bike category, and it does take a lot more work to keep looking good and clean than something like our Ninja 400. So again, that's a very, very small kind of aspect of it. On that side of things, probably the bigger thing that you'll notice is whether you like this style of bike or whether you like something like a sports bike or maybe a cruiser. And of course, the style of bike that you like the look of is always going to be a primary kind of buying decision as a rider. You should buy something that you really like the look of. Now, there was a time when naked bikes, particularly the naked variants of the sports bike or the super sport bikes, were detuned, quite basic options in comparison to their sports bike brethren. That's no longer the case. In most cases, these bikes are on par with, if not based on exactly the same engine, brakes, everything, chassis design. They're just slightly different rider triangle, normally just the bars, and it's quite a simple change. So you're not trading off a heap of performance, you're not trading off a heap of suspension tech or technology on the bike or anything like that. The naked bikes just are a slightly more relaxed machine. Jumping on very, very quickly, as you'll see here, those nice tall handlebars, they do give you an easy reach to the bars, even for shorter riders. This is one of the taller naked bikes with a taller seat height, but most of them have seat heights, particularly in this learner category, in that 800, 785, maybe 825 at most seat height, and 825 is on the taller side of things, but you're getting a fairly relaxed seating position, which does make this a very easy bike to ride in comparison to something with slightly lower and more aggressive bars. Now, certainly something which is far more prominent the bigger a naked bike you go is the simple fact that I would say these bikes are a little bit more engaging to ride. You feel the speed a little bit more than you do on the super sport style machines because you do have the taller handlebars, and it kind of emphasizes how you ride the bike. So I would actually say these tend to be a little bit more fun at lower speeds than your super sport or your sports bike style machine, where often on those you really have to push the bike quite hard. Again, because this is the beginner segment, there's less difference between the sports bikes and the naked bikes, but it is there to a smaller extent. And certainly if you're not really sure what motorcycle you want, I would start looking at the naked bikes. It's the generic choice, it's the roadster, it's the all-in-one, very, very kind of simple bike as far as things go. And also because they don't have the fairings, they're normally a little bit cheaper than the sports bikes, which mean they're a little bit easier to pick up. They can show damage a little bit more if you do drop them. However, that is also an issue on faired bikes. Obviously, faired bikes, if they've been dropped, generally they get quite scratched up. in comparison to a bike like this, where the engine is more likely to cop some of the damage. But certainly shouldn't be too big of a problem unless you're looking at a second-hand bike and you're trying to get them to push the price down a little bit, simply because there's a bit of damage to the bike. So if you're thinking a naked bike, definitely go sit on one, have a look, have a comparison between the naked bike and the sports bike. Also, if you're interested in the tourers, jump on those. They tend to be taller, larger bikes, heavier bikes. And if you're thinking that something like this is a bit tall for you and a little bit too hard to manage, you can look at cruisers, because then cruisers are a bit shorter. They do normally weigh quite a bit more, but because the weight is kept low, it's nice and manageable. So you shouldn't have any issues with that at all. If you've got any questions, let me know down below in the comments. As always, stay safe out there. Thanks for watching.